Okay, Saban, you've had 2 terrible episodes in a row, so I'm begging you here. Please put out a good episode this time. You had so much potential at the beginning of the season, and quite frankly I would lose all faith in this show if this episode wasn't at least decent, so come on. Please let this one be a return to form so I can go back to enjoying this show. Whatever. This is episode 7, Let Sleeping Zords Lie. The episode opens with the Rangers at a dig site where the guys are digging for energems while Shelby is looking at the dinosaurs that bonded with the energems. Chase asks Shelby to give them some help, but Shelby says that since Keeper gave the energems to 10 different dinosaurs, the Rangers shouldn't be looking for the energems in places they've already dug just because they found fossils there before. Tyler asks where they should start digging, so Shelby says she has an idea to find the energems, and explains that they can better locate energems by combining the areas where the remaining dinosaurs lived with the energy signatures of each energem. Chase says that Shelby just doesn't want to get dirty, but Shelby says that they should work smarter, not harder, adding that they should at least test her theory. The guys don't seem to trust Shelby, so she says she doesn't need their help anyway, at which point she asks for Tyler's keys so she can leave in his Jeep. In space, Sledge threatens Fury, saying that if he doesn't get the energems, Sledge will put a bounty on his head before leaving. Overhearing the conversation, Poisandra and Curio say they could find the energems, asking Wretch if he could help them, but Wretch says that Sledge would be mad at him if he did, to which Poisandra says Sledge doesn't have to know. Back on Earth, Miss Morgan asks if everything's okay since Shelby returned from the dig early, but Shelby says that she came up with a way to find the energems.
Oh, really? I think you underestimate how difficult it is to find an energem. And I think you underestimate me. Ever since I first got here, I've been waiting tables, mopping floors, and being a pretty good Pink Ranger if I do say so myself. But I've also got a lot of ideas going on up here. The problem is, no one will listen.
You tell her, Shelby. Miss Morgan says she's listening, so Shelby tells her about how they can find the energems, and Miss Morgan says that the processing power required would limit them to finding one energem at a time before the two start working. Starting with the ankylosaur that bonded with the aqua energem, Shelby takes DNA samples of the dinosaur, while Miss Morgan uses the energy signature of the dino chargers to make an ankylocharger that will power a device called the E-tracer that will locate the remaining energems and Zords. When the guys return to the lab, the girls show them the ankylocharger and test out the E-tracer, which uses the satellite network to find the energems. However, the signal gets picked up by Wretch, who tells Poisandra that the Rangers have found something big, and the Rangers go to check it out since it's close by. But when the Rangers get to the location, they find a giant hole, and Tyler says that someone beat them to it before a monster called Stingrage jumps out of the hole with a squad of Vivix. The Rangers begin fighting, with Chase taking on Stingrage, but he gets knocked down. Chase tells the others to go after Stingrage since he might have an energem, so Tyler confronts the monster but ends up getting knocked back. Coda then jumps in to fight Stingrage, but he's thrown down and blasted with a stinger. Riley goes to check on Coda, who suddenly jumps up and begins attacking the other Rangers. Stingrage leaves triumphantly as Coda continues his assault on the others, who are eventually able to take the stinger out and stop Coda's rage. At that point, the Ankylozord suddenly breaks out of the ground and tries to hit the Rangers with its tail before going back underground and leaving. The Rangers regroup at the lab, where Riley says the Aqua Energem must have bonded to someone since the Ankylozord is awake, and Keeper says that the new Ranger might not know about them or has a reason for not joining them yet, but says that the Ankylozord is what's important right now. Coda then hits on the idea that Stingrage must have stung the Zord like he did him, which is why the Zord attacked them. The others agree, and Riley says they need to remove the stinger, so Shelby says she'll do it since her device is what led Sledge to the Zord in the first place. Before she can leave, however, Miss Morgan stops her, saying the E-Tracer worked brilliantly, and says that the reason Sledge was able to find the Zord was because Miss Morgan didn't encrypt the E-Tracer's code. Miss Morgan goes on to blame herself for what happened, saying that she'll find a solution before leaving. Back in space, Fury tells Sledge about Poisandra trying to find the energems herself using Stingrage, but Poisandra tells Sledge that Stingrage was able to control the Zord, so Sledge tells Stingrage to bring him an energem or he'll wish he was behind bars. Back on Earth, Miss Morgan arrives at where the Ankylozord was found and finds Shelby hiding in the back of her car. Shelby says that Miss Morgan shouldn't go after the Ankylozord on her own, but Miss Morgan says that she corrects her mistakes, and Shelby says that since they created this problem together, they should solve it together. Miss Morgan says that she cannot be responsible for sending Shelby down in the hole because it's too dangerous, at which point Stingrage and Poisandra show up to blast the two. Shelby pushes Miss Morgan out of the way and takes the hit, which sends her falling through the hole, but she is able to morph before hitting the bottom. Stingrage then orders some Vivix to attack Miss Morgan, so she grabs a nearby shovel and knocks a few of them down before running away, with the Vivix chasing her. In the hole, Shelby is confronted by the Ankylozord and is able to find the stinger as the Zord begins to charge her. Back with Miss Morgan, she tries to fight off more Vivix, but is soon blasted back by Stingrage, who then tries to blast Miss Morgan again, only to have Tyler suddenly appear with his superior shovel skills. The other Rangers come in to check on Miss Morgan, who says that Shelby fell down the hole, so Tyler goes to find her as Miss Morgan heads back to the lab. Before Tyler can get too far though, he's confronted by Stingrage and the two begin fighting, as the other Rangers take on the Vivix, with Chase taking on Poisandra. Tyler is knocked back by Stingrage, who then blasts blast all the Rangers together, and Poisandra orders Stingrage to sting the Rangers so they will destroy each other. Before Stingrage can do so, however, Shelby suddenly appears out of the ground, riding the Ankylozord, and blasts the villain's back as she meets the others. Shelby tells the others that she was able to remove the stinger from the Ankylozord before the team gets ready to face off against the monsters, with Shelby saying she'll go after Stingrage.
How dare you, Stingazord!
Tricera Charger, engage!
Energize! Dino Steel, armor on!
You're really starting to bug me!
Tricera Drill!
Looks like I got stung this time!
And that's how it's done!
Yeah, Shelby! Sledge causes Stingrage to grow, so Shelby, Tyler, and Coda call in their Zords before Shelby says the Ankylozord can help them and calls on the triangular formation of the Dino Charge Megazord. Using the new Megazord, the Rangers are able to finish Stingrage, Team Rocket style, and after the fight, Fury threatens Poisandra, asking how she found a Zord. Poisandra refuses to tell Fury, saying that Sledge would destroy him if he touches her, adding that she's smarter than Fury thinks when Sledge calls for her. Back with the Rangers, Riley tells the guys that Miss Morgan fixed the E-Tracer so Sledge can't steal their data anymore before Shelby shows up. The guys thank her for inventing the E-Tracer before Miss Morgan arrives to give Shelby a gift for her invention, and the episode ends with the gift being fossilized dino dung, which Shelby drops, causing it to shatter. This episode is leaps and bounds better than the last two episodes, and is the type of episode I wish we would have gotten after Return of the Caveman. Much like Return of the Caveman, this episode fully focuses on a certain character, this time Shelby, who straight up owns every scene that she's in. I really do like how she was able to take charge of the situation when she both found and tamed the Ankylozord, and honestly she felt like she was really the second in command of the group. I even liked all her interactions with Miss Morgan, who is a character that I previously hated, but this episode made me really like her. She doesn't do her usual thing of passive-aggressively insulting Shelby in this episode, but instead blames herself for Sledge finding the Ankylozord and plans to go off on her own to solve the problem. It also speaks highly of Shelby's character that she was willing to take part of the blame herself and actually tries to help Miss Morgan, and it is ultimately because of her that the stinger was removed from the Ankylozord. Thematically, the episode focuses on the idea of working smarter not harder, which actually makes sense this time around because the events of the episode fully complement it. Shelby invents the E-Tracer as a way to find the remaining Energems faster and more efficiently, as opposed to someone like Fury, who's been randomly searching the planet for the Energems for millions of years with no success. Speaking of Fury, I really do like the very slow-building conflict between Fury and Poisandra, which arguably has been going on since the season began, but here it is built upon even more, to the point where I don't see this ending well for Poisandra by the end of the show. I also find the idea of a rogue ranger who doesn't have a Zord quite interesting, especially considering that the Energems have been around for millions of years, so there's no telling how long this ranger has been around. However, as good as this episode is, it still has a few problems, one of them being that a stunt was totally botched in this episode, and I also didn't appreciate the joke at the end, which I admit is a personal distaste. Overall, this is a pretty good episode. Despite my minor complaints, Shelby's characterization is what drives the episode, and I look forward to more episodes like this in the future. I just hope it doesn't take 2 more bad episodes for this to happen again. I'm Nick, aka Iron Man 1993, and may the power protect you.